Hello, welcome to not normal co-op. I've brought in Cranberry and Dusk, and we're gonna do an updated tier list video. Like, I don't know, when was the last one? Like 2 months ago, something like that.
I think that's right.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do an updated tier list video. I got Cranberry and Dusk here if you guys want to say hello.
Apparently, Cranberry does not want to say
Oh
hello, so
yeah.
I will.
Well, I didn't know who went first.
Now, all right. Well, I will go first then.
What
What's
if
Mhm.
I
up,
want to go
everyone?
first, though?
Oh well, tough luck.
I already went first, so you guys are kind
Oh,
of
you're
fighting
right.
for second place.
Well, I already went, so now Cranberry's
Mm.
last.
Yeah, all right.
I want the bird to go next. He's
Let's see
part of
if
this too.
let's see if the bird wants to fly into the window again. He's been missing for 2 weeks. I'm worried about him. He hasn't been
No,
responding to my
what
calls.
what could happen?
Did it
Probably.
ever actually fly away after it hit the window?
Yeah, I had another bird fly into my window like a week and a half
Oh
ago, right
God,
before we did co-op too. Uh,
just a recurring character at this point.
yeah, it really
What's the
is.
question? Did you ask us how we're doing? I'm doing well.
Yeah, I don't think I did. I think I just said if you guys want to say hello, and then I was gonna do like a
Oh,
natural transition, but then you both were just silent, and it was kind of. How you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing great. It's just more silence.
how to specify?
I mean, it's kind of open floor. We didn't really script this. You wanna just scrap this, and then we can write out a whole script so that there's no
No, we're
more.
we're absolutely
That's
not.
way too much work.
Yeah, all right, all right. Yeah, we're gonna go through. I was thinking about doing this, and then because my opinions have changed a little bit on all the champions, and I just kind of was like, hey, why don't we do an updated tier list video instead of normal co-op this week? We can grab Dusk and we can have a great time. So here we are. We're gonna have a great time. You guys ready?
Hell yeah.
I'm good to go.
All right. I guess let's just get right to it. I'll have links in the description. Both of these guys make videos as well. I'll have a link so you can go check them out. Monster Train and Dusk. You've been playing Wielder Myth as
Oh
well.
yeah, I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it, but I have also been playing Wildermyth is what I call it. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of fun. It's like
Yeah.
an RPG that has like a roguelike mode, which is pretty cool.
Hmm. Cranberry, you playing any non-Monster Train stuff lately?
I'm thinking of maybe getting back into Isaac soon, but right now, not really.
Okay, fair.
Sporadic Snake RX content whenever like I'm just playing casually and I have like a good start to either a speed run or a pacifist run, which is what I'm calling it.
Mm-hmm.
If I have one of those, I'll stop and I'll actually start recording it, and then it'll be like a thing that I might put up. But other than that, no.
You still got the world record on that?
Oh baby, do I still have the world record? All right. It's kind of not to brag too much, but that's like my most watched video actually right now. I think, other than like
Hell
the other
yeah.
speedrun stuff I did like 8 years
Ah,
ago.
the nuclear throne stuff from back in the
Yeah.
day. You
I
got
was gonna say, how much like competition you got on the world record stuff
N-
there?
Not to be rude to the people who have submitted runs, but there seems like there's very little competition right now because not many people are playing the game. I think they're
yeah.
waiting for the roguelite mode to come out because that's going to be pretty cool.
Fair.
And
I
by
know.
they, I mean the other three people.
Oh yeah, I know like virtually nothing about this game, so I didn't even realize it wasn't a roguelike.
It's like it's got elements to it, but the person who's making the game is like, I wanted to be more like Slay the Spire, where you have like an actual like route to kind of like pick your items sort of and pick your path and all that sort of stuff.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, there
So
I
you
it
mean,
go.
that
seems pretty
also might be
cool.
good for like popularity too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There you go. You'll have you can go check out the Snake RX speedrun world record holder in the description. You can check out Dusk, who has like got like a what 82 game win streak, something like that in Monster Train.
I actually think I'm at like it's got to be over 100 at this point. No, it's like
Over 100,
90 something.
90 something. Yeah. You go. You got those two options to go check out as well. I don't think either of these guys are recording this to bring their tier list, so I will also put a link to their finished tier list in the description, and you can take a look at that. And as always, I'll have the link somewhere. You can't see it because it's cut off at the top of my recording screen, but I'll have that in the description too. If you want to make your own tier list, you can hop in the Discord, post it, and I'll go, that's a really bad tier list. How could you do that? Are you guys ready?
I
Let's
have
do it.
one more thing to talk about before we really
One
dive
more
into
thing.
it.
Go ahead.
I got another bone to pick with Dusk. I think this is gonna be a recurring segment whenever we get together for
Uh-oh.
stuff.
Oh boy.
I got more Monster Train bugs, and I want to tell you about it because in my head you might be able to save it or
You're the
do something
All
about
developer.
it.
right.
You're
Yes,
Monster
I
Train.
do that.
Okay, here's the interaction. Spreading spores,
Uh-huh.
split anvil,
Okay.
I play a more expensive card to lower the cost of spreading spores down to 0. I play the 0 cost spreading spores, it makes a duplicate. The duplicate now permanently costs 0. This is not a bad thing, it's a good thing for me. But the interaction makes no sense. I don't understand why the duplicated card retains the split anvil cost reduction. I would imagine the duplicated card should lose the cost reduction as well.
The way this happens is like the game applies temporary upgrades to cards when you do things like split anvil triggers or whatever, and those temporary upgrades get transferred in. The whole card gets completely copied. I think there are some other weird things you can do with like spell chained copies of the spreading spores. It gets even weirder if you have like spell chain and hope for peace, because then it becomes consume, and then you just add consume copies of more expensive spreading spores. It's really weird.
Okay, so I have a question that I would like to ask you.
Yes,
So
do it.
if you have let's say plus 10 spell power from the Cuttlefish Boy, right? And let's say you
Yep.
have the heavens, whichever heavens aid or whatever effect where it creates a copy that gets added to your discard pile, right?
Yep.
If you give it a spell bonus with the squid, and then you duplicate the card, is that spell damage bonus permanently applied to that new duplicate?
I think it is actually, yes.
That doesn't make any sense.
I think that's how it applies, because it is temporary upgrades is how they do that, and so that should carry over.
So what you're telling me is that on the spreading spores and the whatever effect where it makes duplicates into the discard pile effect, that takes temporary bonuses and adds them permanently to the card.
Only for the copies during that combat,
Yeah,
but yeah.
that specific combat, but yeah.
Yeah, you can create
Okay.
some really bizarre things with it. I've definitely had like consume spreading spores at higher costs with like some that triggered split anvil and some that didn't, and it's weird.
So what you're telling me is there's an infinite here somehow. That we can
Oh
infinitely
yeah.
put magic power onto a single spell, maybe, and then Voix can do this and take 18 hours and ruin his life?
Yeah, and then you
No,
just kill divinity with torch.
I won't be
Exactly.
doing that anytime soon.
Okay.
Yeah, I realized as you guys were talking there that I should definitely have done an audio test. However, that is we're 8 minutes and there's no
Oh,
chance.
Yeah.
I hope
Not
we're not
happening.
muted.
They're definitely not muted, but like maybe I'm significantly louder than one of you. You guys sound all right to me, but you know, it doesn't matter. Let's just go to it.
Hell yeah.
So we're starting with Prince, unless Cranberry objects.
I will allow it this
Yeah,
time.
I'll allow it. What I should have done is I should have pulled up the tier list that I made last time, and then been able to like reference what I said last time about Prince.
Well, that's cheating.
I mean, it's like a comparison thing. I don't think it's really cheating.
No. Oh, close notebook.
Closed. I didn't realize this was a test, Cranberry.
You're getting graded.
Well, I'm gonna grade Prince, and I think I'm still gonna give him a D. But
Yeah,
like,
he's terrible.
yeah.
You know what? I'm putting him at C. I think he's got the way I evaluate champions now is how good they are in the early game, and almost entirely that's it.
Mhm.
Not entirely, but like he's one of the better ones in the early game. He actually can kill like a thing sometimes.
It's kind of an interesting take. I mean, like it's certainly appreciate. Yeah, he basically can't lose the early game. I do agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as you don't like throw with like brawler and absolutely no buffs or something.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, sometimes you can get out of the first two combats and see like Ritual of Battle and do okay.
So from when we last made this tier list to now, my opinion of Prince has become a lot better because of the brawler stuff you can do. The problem that he suffers from is that 2 of his 3 paths are just basically unplayable past Daedalus, but Cranberry does make a good point. He's fine to get through Daedalus.
Yeah, I generally have like 2 different like I guess subgroups of champions. Ones that are like good in just the early game, and ones that are good beyond the early game, like past Daedalus, I guess, right? And then there's some that do neither, and those are the ones that I actually reserve for the D tier, in my opinion. We'll get to that in a bit, I suppose. But like, if you can perform well in the early game, for me right now, that's enough. Like, to not be D tier.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, in my case, I definitely evaluate them holistically throughout a run. I look at like, okay, so how well do they perform early game and late game? I mean, because you still have to have them in your deck, right? You can't just remove them. And so you're forced to do something
Mhm.
with them, and throwing them away. I mean, it's fine, but it's still like a draw you're giving up. And wouldn't it be just better if you had an actually good champion instead? So,
Yeah. For me, I'm putting him in D tier because if I don't put him in D tier and dunk on him, then I don't think anyone goes in the D tier. Well, there's
No, we
one.
got yeah, there's one.
There's one, but like he's just like he's pretty bad, and I don't want to let him off easy with a C tier here. Prince is pretty bad, and I think that he's in dire need of like I really think that Prince would probably jump up 2 tiers if Wrathful had like plus 40 health across the board.
oh yeah, I agree.
I mean,
That's really the only
you
problem
can't
with
give
it.
him that much health in the early game. Maybe like by the end he had 40 more health, but like
Oh yeah,
across the
yeah.
board, like he can't have 40 more health base at level 1.
Yeah, sure,
That
he
would be
can.
Yeah,
absurd.
I think it should be like 10 more at rank 1 and then like 10, 20, 40 would be perfect.
Yeah,
I mean, if he had like 80, you could really work with that because he would be
Mhm.
generating some armor and then nothing does 80 damage at the divinity for a couple waves at least. So you'd be able to get through it.
yeah. The problem is just that you have a really good run where he frontlines for a good backliner. You get to the divinity, you play mid floor, and you die on turn 2 every time,
Mhm.
and it's sad. Any more last minute Prince thoughts?
Nah, I mean,
Well,
I do think Brawler's probably more pickable in most runs than people give it credit for,
Mm-hmm.
though. It's one of the few redeeming things of the champion.
Yeah.
Like, I think Reform Brawler is great. You know, you've got that line if you have some starting Reform.
Yeah.
Uh, Pretty much any scaling works with it. Yeah, I'm a fan.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think between the three of them, while he has maybe one of the weaker early games, especially depending on your start, Brawler definitely has the best late game potential.
Oh yeah.
So, but out of his three choices, in general, he's pretty bad. I put him as C tier
Yeah.
because he's not worthless.
That's fair. The Sentient. I think the Sentient I rated A tier, and I think the Sentient stays A tier. I think she's good.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think I rated her B tier before, and I still think she's pretty B tier. I mean, she does her job. She sticks around. She's useful. She never feels bad. I do think she's kind of a little weak early game in a few of her paths. You usually get run over for like 10 damage or something here and
Yeah.
there because your only damage is like spikes and then a 5 damage train steward or something. But all in all, I think she's fine. She's kind of like middle of the road in my opinion. Just a good frontliner.
I don't remember what I had her ranked last, but I think I'm putting Cynthia at B tier too.
Okay.
More or less what Dusk said. Like you have to play the early game really passively. You can't take any risks. Like you have to like skip most trials unless
Yeah.
you're like maybe invasion and you have good healing and your spikes. Other than that, you just skip basically all the trials and you can't take any cool boons in the early game. It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Um, but like she'll almost always be relevant late game, which is fun.
Sentient, I think that her main paths, because I think she has two main paths, which are Spikes and Cultivate, right? And the big problem that she faces is that on Spike's path, she closes off your option for Shattered Show, which is a very strong, consistent winner for Awoken. And on Cultivate path, she is just a worse Awoken Hollow.
Oh, two space.
Yeah, but like I think she's just worse than Awoken. You get the +1 draw, and it's like there's a trade-off, right? Awoken Hollow lets
Mhm.
you scale theoretically as much as you want, where the Sentient there's a cap based on how many enemies there are.
Yeah, I definitely have runs where Sentient's much better and cultivating because I mean it scales based on the combat you're fighting, right? Like if you get something like
Yeah,
Purifiers, you get hit twice a turn, which is really slow. But if you get something like early game Clergyman, you can just go even out of control with a Train Steward. So it's kind of varied in that respect.
yeah, it's a little bit of like it's worth mentioning, and it's why she's not S tier. I think is because her paths do have some pretty blatant flaws, but you know,
Worthy note because she's two space and you can put a two space backliner behind her. You can go mid floor divinity with no space boss relic, which is pretty excellent in my opinion.
and what about the Edge Prior though?
Yeah.
You
What
sure you want to
about
cultivate an edge prior?
Every
what
day,
about what
what?
about Shard Channeler?
Yeah. All right.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. You know, Shard Channeler with the Spikes path, I've actually just soloed every wave on the Divinity with that before, so it's
Yeah,
actually excellent.
it is pretty good. Those guys, they get big numbers.
It's kind of sad that the only real hero or anything that takes advantage of it is like the Sentient, though, right? I mean, getting Thorn Hollow to that point is rough.
Who?
That's a unit.
All right. Last minute awoken thoughts or sentient thoughts.
Nah.
Mm-hmm. Kramer.
Big plant goes bird.
Okay. Tethys. I mean, I brought you all here today to tell you. I'm gonna put Tethys in B tier.
You can go to hell.
I'm doing it.
You can
I'm
go
doing
right
it.
to
You
hell.
can't stop me.
Stop.
That's a hot take, my friend.
That's what I'm here for. I brought you
No.
all here today to throw Tethys in B tier and fight you.
Okay, well, let's begin the fight.
All right. So
You're
Conduit.
dumb.
Yeah. All right. What the heck? All right. I concede.
Okay, I'm glad we all agree now.
She's S tier now. I'm moving her up 2 tiers for that.
No, you can't do that. I'm gonna push Shardtail back to D tier 2 now. I was gonna reconsider, but now I can't.
To the death. No, I think that Tethys. I think we were too hard on Tethys. So I should say that I wanna look at this tier list because last time I feel like we looked at the champions in kind of a vacuum, and I think contextually Tethys is a lot stronger than we give her credit for because the spell weakness path is not great, but it says sweep, and so as long as like you might take a little bit of damage in the first combat, but after that you're gonna pick up a unit and then Tethys becomes a pretty decent backline clear to get you through Daedalus, and then you can phase her out of the run. And Conduit just lets you go crazy. Conduit lets you pick any spell you want for no problem, take double draw, and just go mad. And then there's another path, but I don't remember what it does. I think it just dies. It soaks Ember Drain, maybe?
Here's what's crazy is that I think as of right now, I think my favorite path with Tethys is Cold Channel.
That
Or
is
whatever
crazy.
the name of her it is.
It's not even her path.
Yeah, whatever the frosty cold path is for Tethys.
Chill
right
wind.
now. I have so much trouble with Tethys in the early game. Maybe I should take Sweetmore because I don't take it too often, but I take Conduit and I die on like ring 3 all the fucking time.
Do you click on pack shards?
No,
Do you click on trials?
sometimes.
You gotta not click trials. She's very.
But I should have good spells for the trials sometimes, and I don't draw them, and Tethys fucking kills me.
Well, that's your fault.
I never have problems with her in the early game on Conduit, though. I mean, you start with at least Frozen Lances.
Mm-hmm.
Then like sometimes you just have like if you don't have a good damage spell, sometimes the first boss just walks over and does 20 damage to your pyre.
That's survivable though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but like that's not cool.
I mean, I've had a Fade run where I took 36 in the first combat, and then I
Yeah,
went,
but then
damn.
Fade kills everyone after Daedalus.
Yeah, but you got
Tethys doesn't always do that.
you got your cool Tethys and all your spells are free, and then you go, hey, I incant. Haha.
I don't know. I have found for me lately at least the most success I've had with Tethys is just using it to kill the first couple bosses with Frostbite and then just forgetting it ever existed. And it's not even that good at that. It's so bad. I don't know.
It's tough. I think Tethys is, it's interesting. I actually had a recent run where I didn't start with Conduit because they didn't show it to me, and I took Chill Wind, and the Frostbite actually mattered in the end game because my Relentless was so bad in the Divinity, which I actually think is hilarious. But I think she's really, really bad, and I can't give Tethys a B tier when she just kills herself and gives the whole wave 20 armor on Harvest Wave Divinity.
Yeah.
That's too tough.
You got spikes, you got sweeps, you got vulnerability to top floor against Divinity because of that low HP pool. You got
And
trash.
She doesn't even kill elite enemies in the backline. She does not even reach a number that is remotely competitive. Like,
Right.
she does 10 damage.
But basically what I have said about Tethys now is that by the time you're at the Divinity, Tethys is usually irrelevant to your run anyway. And like sure, for the purposes of the champion tier list, she obviously is not very good in a vacuum, but in the context of the fact that she is in Stygian, I think she's very good because Stygian, you click on 2 sirens and you go, haha, I incamp.
Illegal opinion. We're not talking about the claim.
I mean, you know, in context, she's good. I mean,
Illegal.
All right, hello Cranberry. Let me be you in 15 minutes. Oh, I think Shardtail Queen is bad because no imps. What the heck?
I said I was gonna change my mind.
We can't. But contextually, we can't consider the fact that imps exist. So Shardtail Queen sucks.
I mean,
No.
the other part of that is like that means you have to rank Primordium lower because of Plink, though.
I mean, I'm ready.
I'm not ready.
Oh, that's about to be another hot take. I'm not ready for that.
Primordium. I'm making a new tier.
Oh no, you can't.
Primordium
us?
tier. No D, but lower.
That's an F, my man.
It's a P
That's
for
tough.
Primordium. All right. Any
P
more
for Plink.
Tethys thoughts? Where'd you
No,
guys put Tethys?
I'm just gonna say she's still D tier. I
That's fair.
can't. She's just too bad.
Well, you know,
Tethys / Shardtail Queen has just become the Tethys tier for me.
I'm here to go to bat for Tethys. Also, final note, I think Tethys has a nice death sound. I like it when she screams.
Oh, that is. I'll give you high props for that. I agree. I love hearing her die.
How does that not make her obviously D tier? You always hear her die.
8 times out of 8.
You know,
All
if
right.
I could do an infinite with Tethys, just died repeatedly, that would be peak content.
Die, reform, repeat. I mean, the Votavary one was pretty bad. I had to mute the game when I was doing that Votavary infinite.
Oh God.
That one was rough. Okay. Penumbra. I'm not here to A tier.
Oh,
Are you serious?
No, I'm putting him in D tier. I think
well,
Penumbra's hard.
I think you're wrong.
Hard worst champion in the game.
I disagree.
Oh my god.
I still think Tethys is worse. I'm putting Penumbra in the C tier. I've gained a new respect for Penumbra. Again, with my new philosophy of the game, in that Penumbra fucking stomps the early game. Does a great good job in the early game, so I'm putting it in C tier. Trash in the late game, obviously. I think the actual worst. Yeah, I think the actual just worst champion in the late game, probably. But like the fact that it just like dominates the early game with monstrous is like mwah, beautiful.
Yeah, I actually had Penumbra in the C tier for the previous one, but I've actually dropped him lower in playing with him a lot more. I think he's definitely D tier. A pretty rough champion. You know, there's ways of making it work, but he just doesn't get there. He doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's like, oh boy, I like my intrinsic space prism, the champion.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like
better than Tethys.
I like Penumbra
Fair.
because so you got 3 paths for Penumbra. You got intrinsic space prism, you got half a heavy, and you got what do you even call the gorge path? Hey, I just closed off half of the clan path.
Mhm.
Can't pick a single gorge unit because there's no way you're making enough morsels.
Yeah, it's
And
tough.
I mean, he's just really bad. I don't like him. I think he's the worst champion. For what it's worth, Cranberry is right. He's okay in the early game. I think Architect isn't anything to be like he dominates, but
Yeah, Architect does not dominate. You're right. But Architect has a definitely better middle game than the other Penumbra paths. Like
yeah.
Architect is like the balanced early to mid game approach. Monstrous and Gorge are like the dominate early game and then just fall off late game.
I don't know if Gorge dominates the early game.
Gorge can dominate. Gorge can dominate. Don't worry. It kills Divinity for you, or not Divinity. Daedalus. He kills Daedalus for you.
Yeah, I mean,
pretty easily.
I don't know if you're feeding him like 2 morsels a turn. I feel like you're still struggling to kill Daedalus because it's not a lot.
He's got it.
Maybe after the morsel.
Well, even the other Gorgers are going to be better at 2 morsels a turn. So
yeah,
hell, Crucible Collector's better.
I think they're about equivalent. They'll both get the job done, and then he'll do a better job of killing heavies than Collector will. Again, like, you know, he's like, don't get me wrong, he's trash late game. That I think the actions, at least Conduit Tethys, like makes your spells so you can do crazy incant shit. Like he does nothing in the late game, but early game, great job, Penumbra. You've done something.
Yeah, it's tough because I don't really think, you know, I've played with this a lot, and I don't really think you need to do too terribly much to make Penumbra feel better. But
yeah.
Like, it doesn't take a lot. Like, the tweaks that I made in the balance patch, for instance, they're not significant. Like, I haven't changed stat lines or anything. It's just you just tweak a little bit of the numbers on like space, on monstrous. You give like some life steal to all paths, and suddenly everything feels really relevant and like good. It's I don't know. I hope that they actually do something with Penumbra because I feel like Umbra is just such a trash tier clan at the highest difficulty, and it's always dreadful to play. You know, at least Stygian with like Tethys, you've got Stygian. You have a line,
Yeah.
you can get there. But like, oh, you have a bad champion in a bad clan, and it's just gross.
I agree with that sentiment quite a bit.
I think long gone are the days of pick monstrous Penumbra and then pick Space Prism to accommodate him.
Right. And you know, I could just keep going because I see this all the time. Everyone's like, "Oh man, I love Umbra. They're my favorite clan." And I'm just like, "How do you think that?" Like
Morsels.
morsels break
I'm
everything.
sure there's some fucker out there who's like just 3 out of every 4 runs is picking up Morsel Maid in the first like unit draft, right? Like there's someone out there doing that, and they're
I
just getting
guess.
away with it every day.
They're like, "Wow, Penumbra's so good. I won with Morsel Maid."
Yeah.
Yeah. Penumbra. All right.
Dusk, real quick, I'm curious what your size line is for monstrous in the rebalance. Is it like 4, 4, 5?
No, it's just for the whole way, actually.
4 the whole way? That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, imagine being able to give him a lifesteal morsel without having to take space,
That's amazing.
right? It's amazing how much of a difference that makes too. Just being able to not have to take space and
Yeah.
play it on any floor and then give it a morsel. It's so good by comparison to what it is now. You don't even need to change the stats, even if he doesn't, you know, kill heavies or whatever. He still clips like front light wilt wings and stuff. He doesn't farm himself out to the harvest wave. Like
Mhm.
it's really good actually.
Or Penumbra. Maybe one day.
Yeah.
All
C
right.
tier.
D tier for me.
D tier for me.
All right. Rector. I don't remember where I put him last time, but this time I'm gonna put him B tier.
I can agree with this.
I think that he's fine.
I can't say bad things about Rector. I every time I see melting, I'm just like, oh man, melting champion, hell yeah, sign me up. I can win from any position with any path of to Rector. Harvest is so good right now. Tombs are exceptional. You've got Burnout, which just free wins rings 1 through 3 as long as you have literally any Burnout extension or reform. You've got and even Dark Calling is just really good in the early game and really strong late game if that ends up being your commit. I'll go to bat for Rector. I think he's one of the best champions in the game.
Oh. I
Um,
I don't I wouldn't put him in I would put him like probably fifth. I'd put him fourth or fifth for me personally.
Yeah, I've got him
mm,
third.
Wow.
I like listen. I know myself well enough to know that I don't want to worry about playing Dark Calling Rector correctly. So I will almost always default to one of the other options, even when it's not that beneficial for me. That being said, I like Burnout Rector, but you can't always play him, especially if you don't
Yep.
have one of those in your starting deck. So Harvest Rector at the start's not bad, but he's not amazing either. So like
Yeah.
put him at B tier too.
It's one
But
of those
like
things
yeah,
where like, no, I'm totally with you on that, but like Dark Calling is terrible for content creation. Like it's a meme for it because if you're going to do it right, it requires thinking like 5 turns ahead and
Yeah.
no one's got time for that when you're recording for YouTube or on a Twitch stream or something. So, but like if you're playing on your own and you're just like really methodically choosing your decisions, it's so strong. You're just like, ah, yes, I see the future. I've seen every future path and I win all of them. And it's just really good.
yeah, I can easily see like just being like, okay, I will let this dreg die on purpose so I can reform it, next turn so I can get a better base stats when the boss actually shows up. Rector will tank it first, and these dregs are hitting for 40 damage around. This gets me even when I play it correctly, I auto in probably all the way to like ring 4 or 5 even, without even
Yeah.
like needing much else. So I can see
Yeah.
it being really good if you like plan things out correctly, but like you said, ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah. And the other thing is that it makes reform always available to you. So it's like you see, I don't know, Legion of Wax. Ah, well, you can bring it back now. You don't even need to roll into molded or whatever. Or the other one is, oh, tombs, yeah, I bring those back too. Or oh, bounty stalker, yeah, I can bring that back. I don't need to hit endless. Like it just enables so many things, and you basically just play it kind of like repeater echo right, where you only want to have so many things in the reform pool. You want things to enter the reform pool at the right time, and it's really good, but it requires a lot of thought.
I agree. I think that Rector is really good. The reason that I put him in B tier and said that he's just all right is because what I've found personally with the burnout line is that he does win you the early game really easily, but a lot of times he's not the best burnout unit you're playing, and I end up sidelining him for just like a unit that has a much better play, some sort of paraffin enforcer infused monster that's just going out of control. And Rector just kind of gets sidelined in those runs for me. Harvest and Dark Calling, I struggle with Harvest a little bit because the early game it's like, what am I doing? I don't have any tombs. And then Dark
Yeah.
Calling is just really good, I think. But like generally, I feel like if I put Rector in the B tier, I kind of feel like I need to move the Sentient down to B tier as well, which I think I'm going to do actually, because I think the Sentient is a little worse than Rector.
Fair, yeah. It's another thing about Burnout Rector that I like is that even if you do sideline them, I mean, at the end of the run, Divinity, 3 rounds of a 145, 145 punching something,
Yeah,
that's solid. Like I'm cool with that.
that's fine. Yeah, you're not wrong.
I'm also pretty cool with that.
I think that he's pretty good, but I don't want to. I might end up moving him around based on how I feel about the other champions, because it's kind of like when you're tier listing them, you kind of do them based on how you feel about other
Yeah,
champions. We'll see what I
I
feel.
hear that.
Any final Rector thoughts?
I think I talked about him enough.
Cranberry.
I like his art.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the cooler looking champions. He's got that cool jacket. Very hot topic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a tier list I can get behind actually.
Yeah. Story-wise, I think
Yeah.
Rector is probably the most interesting as well. Like, all of the exiles are like, oh, I'm lost in time. Wait, Rector's like, yeah, I'm playing two sides against each other so I can make a lot of money.
Hell yeah, we love money.
Hell yeah. All right. Chef, aka the Spine Chief. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with this guy. I know he's really good, but I'm really bad at him. I'm gonna give him A tier.
Yeah, I mean, I had him A tier before. I have him A tier now. I think there's no start I can lose with on Chief. He's just so nuts. I mean, and the thing is like there's just I like how there's a formula for winning with his lines. And I think that's very rewarding because it's kind of like, okay, I have this start. I now just have to solve these problems and voila, I have won the run. You know, it's with like Decayer, so with Reap, you just need to have something that keeps him alive, and then you need to do like 2,000 damage in Relentless somehow to a Divinity, and voila, you've done it. With Corruptor, you just need to load up the floor with a lot of hits, and then hopefully don't let Chief die, and like voila, you've done it. I really like those kind of puzzles that you just like unlock and solve, and then suddenly you just victorious at the run.
Yeah. Cranberry?
I like him. I think I was a little hesitant last time we did this. I'm putting him, I think, last time in the A tier and still the A tier this time, but I'm much more confident putting him in the A tier this time. After playing with him more, all of the paths are viable. Early, mid, and late game, which is fantastic. It doesn't always carry the run for you like the S tier champions do.
Yeah.
But it's usually an important part to them. And I think we mentioned it last time. We talked about the idea, or maybe we did during this. I forget, but I think we talked about the idea of using the multi-strike path with Glugsider to have it heal Glugsider. I have succeeded in that mission, and it was.
Oh my god!
It
Did
was
you do it?
up. Yeah, I did. It was weird because I think I had to only do multi-strike 2, and I think I needed to do the damage increase one to help scale the triple multi-strike Glugsider.
Oh
The
shit!
what?
Did you actually make this
maybe it was,
run?
or maybe it was only, I forget what the actual stats were, but yeah, I did do a Glugsider run with the corruptor behind it.
That
I need
sounds
to see this.
terrible.
How have I missed this? I watch your channel like a hawk.
It's the thumbnail with the Glugsider with 5 guns.
Sign me up. I'm gonna go check that out after this.
Cancel the
But
recording. We are gonna go watch that right now.
but yeah, like that was cool. So I can't do that and then also not put this man at least A tier. But on a more serious note, like that line, the multi-strike line, I did that with Shard Soul Carver, and that was really cool. How it made it so
Yep.
that way I could play top floor pretty safely because even though we're taking 9 sweep every turn, Shard Soul is just gaining 6 armor for free because of him attacking. Like there's just a lot of cool stuff with the Spine Chief that I like a lot now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I agree. I'm glad you mentioned the Infector Pass because I actually think it's better than most people give it credit for.
I think it's the worst of the 3, but I think there's some cool fringe cases where it ends up being pretty cool.
Yeah, agreed.
I think that the problem that people have with the Infector Pass is that people think that all the Wormkin units are really bad, and I think that the Wormkin units are pretty good. I'm struggling to like finalize it, and like, okay, now I can always win with these Wormkin units, but like, I think Keeper of Echoes and Shardsoul Carver are really strong units, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of people underrate them and call them not very good when they can get there.
Yeah, I made a ridiculously long like Wormkin guide in response to a lot of those comments I see people make about how Wormkin feels weak and things like that. And I'm like, no, actually, their units are really good. There's like 4 units that if I see them, I feel consistently capable of building a solid line out of them. You've got, yeah, you mentioned 2 of them, so Shard Soul Carver and Keeper of Echoes, and then the 2 uncommon eggs. I can just win with those as well. So,
and then also they're really good rare cards, right?
oh,
Perfect Insanity,
sadly.
baby.
The card's actually, I took that card recently because I was like, hey, this run's really good. I think I had some sort of sweep scaling plan. I was like, I'm going to grab Perfect Insanity so that I can kill a mini boss. And then I never drew Perfect Insanity when the mini boss was on the right floor.
Cool.
Tough.
Yeah, I had 2 floors set up for it and I just never hit it. I was very sad.
I mean, if we're talking about what makes Wormkin actually strong, I think the number one thing is just the presence of Echo Transfer and Echo Infusion. Those 2 cards are wrong.
Their commons are out of control.
Yeah, someone programmed those 2 cards wrong. We need to go back and fix the numbers.
I think I said this in the community event we did last week, but if you put Echo Infusion and Cycle of Life side by side, you're paying 3 energy for 3 spikes. You're literally paying 1 energy per spike on a rare in Awoken versus Echo Infusion.
It's so tough.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how they can look at those 2 cards and be like, also one is a common and one is a rare.
But the extract 1 though.
Yeah, Peruska goes burr.
Right? It's actually a benefit half the time.
Yeah, it is insane sometimes. Like that.
Yeah.
It's a slight tangent, but do you guys know about the card Tarmogoyf in Magic the Gathering?
No.
No,
It's a very famous card in the game. It's one of the most like commonly played like just creature cards like of all time, basically. And the reason why it's so good is that in development they didn't play test it enough, and they originally had, I think it costed like 3 or 4 mana, and then someone, I think like via a typo, accidentally made it 2 cost, and no one caught it. And that's how I feel about Echo Infusion and Echo Transfer. Like someone must have like forgot to change it from a 0 to a 1 or something. I don't know what happened, but someone messed up.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's
I don't really feel like those cards are too strong. I just feel like the cards that mirror them are too weak.
Also true. I think that's also true.
It's funny. I actually have nerfed all of those consume or like those common extract cards to 1 cost in the mod, and they are still unbelievably strong. Like just the fact that I had a recent run that I haven't posted yet, but I have 3 holdover plus 30 proclamations and they're all 1 cost.
Oh.
And it is still unbelievable. Like
yeah.
That thing being 0 cost in the base game is out of control.
Yeah, but extract 2.
Here's what I do with Echo Transfer. Usually, I like give it holdover and I give it intrinsic. Now, even if they did increase the cost to 1, I give it a cost reduction and give it like holdover, and it's the same card but a little bit less consistent. But like who cares? Like it is a busted card, and there is really no way to fix it. So let's just not fix it.
Overall, I think that the chef is good. I think that what I like about him is that he has 3 paths that are playable, so he's varied enough that I think he's always fun to play too.
Yeah, there's a lot of variety there.
Spine Chef looks a little bit like Tarmogoyf, actually, now that I notice it. Pretty weird. Coincidence?
I have
Maybe.
tried to type this into Google like 10 times.
Oh,
I have
nice try,
no
nice
idea how to
try.
spell it.
Hold on.
Is it so?
Tarmogoyf. My bad. Tarmogoyf.
Oh, with a Y.
All I'm getting is like Paraguay is the autocorrect for it.
Paraguay. That's what you want. This guy looks
I'm
nothing
gonna-
like Spine Chef.
I got a picture. Oh, hold on. He does look like Spine Chef. Check out this picture. Look at this.
Pro tip: Tarmogoyf is the best green creature ever printed.
Yeah,
Wow.
like I'm not kidding. Like they did a mistake on this guy. How does that look? It looks like Spine Chief. Look at that guy.
What am I looking at?
Exactly, right?
Also, I was so far off on the spelling. Holy crap.
What do you mean? Tarmogoyf. Tarmogoyf.
Mine looked more like Parmesan.
We cannot talk about Parmesan right now.
Yeah, quick. All right. Final ranking. I think we all said A tier for Chef.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Queen. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I think that she is. I think that she's very, very varied for the average player, because you're gonna have a few runs where she's really, really good, and then you're gonna go through a period where you just get crushed with her.
High variant.
Yeah.
I think I think last time I gave her A tier. I feel weird because the B tier is getting a little cluttered, but I think that is where most of the champions in this game fall. I think I'm gonna give her B tier.
Yeah, I had her A tier as well, and I dropped her to B tier.
You guys aren't gonna believe this. I'm putting Charlotte Tail Queen at B tier.
Wow.
Oh.
And like I just said, I think she's a high variance champion. Depending on
Yeah.
your start and depending on the combinations you see at the beginning of the game, it could go very downhill very quickly, or you can scale out of control. And I think she does not have much middle ground.
Yeah.
So
It's really
Yeah.
interesting. I feel like when I originally started playing the DLC, I felt a lot better about Royalty and a lot worse about Imp Parade, and I've definitely swung around on those two. I play
Yeah.
Royalty almost never because she just, for all her damage, she just kills one thing, and that's never enough. And Imp Parade, however, I feel like I can pretty consistently do a mix of like Imp Parade 2 with Imperialist 1 and just get a bunch of fledgling imps, and it works out pretty well. Even if you miss fledgling imps from your common drafts or whatever, it's a good scaling line there. You just need a lot of space. And I've definitely dipped into Imp Parade a lot more recently just for the -1 cost on imps, which is really helpful. So yeah, I think she's definitely weaker than I initially had her at, so I think she's B, but just think it's kind of interesting on how I've swung on the paths and what I like and what I don't like.
Yeah, I think that the interesting thing that I've been finding with Imp Parade is not really something that I've actually gotten to test a ton, but it's what I've been thinking about with her is that I think Imp Parade might mean that you always take double space if you pick that path. Because, like, if you go to Imp Parade 3, you're getting 2 units per turn. You're mostly what you're going to be doing is playing imps, and so most of your cards are free, so you don't really need energy, and you have a lot of resources in your hand from the Imp Parade, so really all you need is a lot of space. And then on the Divinity, your imps get to die for free because of the Divinity sweep. So you really just have to answer floors 7 and 8, assuming you get there. And I think that she's okay.
Yeah, I think you're right. I very regularly am taking double space if I go all in on Imp Parade, but I find myself doing Imp Parade 2 a lot just because the fledgling imp is so good. And yeah,
I agree with Dusk. I think the actual best line right now. I think past me pre DLC thought it would be Royalty 2, Imperialist 1. Now I'm pretty confident in saying that the best line is Imp Parade 2, Imperialist 1.
I think
The
Imperialist
fledgling
3.
is just a solid. I think it's just a solid scaling plan.
Yeah.
If you're using like Queen as a tank and you have a welder helper, then sure you can do Imp 3 because then she has like the high base health on Imperialist 3.
Yeah, it's true. She
But
has like 80, right?
But like
Yeah.
she has a
France.
built-in scaling plan, which is pretty cool if you just go Imp Parade 2.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I will agree. I think that Imperialist 3 is really strong still. I've definitely had runs where I have some top floor doing whatever, and then she's just on the bottom blowing up 3/4 of every wave, and whatever gets to the top is easy pickings.
Yeah. Imperialist 3, if you get the right setup, is just a better Spike Sentient, I feel like. One more note I want to say, because I remember in the past we used to say Dark Calling Rector would be a much better path and the if was if there was no Dazed on top floor, right? I think
Yeah.
Oh
that
yeah.
I think that in I think that Shardtail Queen in general becomes a significantly better champion if they ever do something about the horrible way that commons work in this game. Because all of the cards that you want to see for Imperialist are on the first two floors.
Yeah, it's
And
true.
it feels
I
really
would
bad.
like late game shops to have maybe a couple spells you can buy similar to Slay the Spire.
Like some
Maybe that's asking for
commons.
too much, but that would be like, yeah, just some commons you can pick from there maybe.
Replace that last trinket shop with like, hey, last chance to see common cards.
Yeah, that'd be sick as
That would be
hell.
really cool, actually. That would change a lot of the strategy.
Yeah. It's like it's like you said though earlier, Cranberry. If you don't see Welder Helper, you just kind of doomed, and then you end up having to rely on hoping to hit on an imp in a box or something like that. Like it's a little less bad.
Go in Parade 3. You can go in Parade 3 and then you get Welder Helpers.
Yeah, but then you don't get Imperialist
Yeah.
at all. It's like it's a whole thing. But like
Fuck Imperialist.
I think that
Use vents. I don't know.
I think there could be a point in time in the future where Queen is maybe the best champion in the game if they change the way that imps are just in general and like how cards are given to you.
Well, I
Yeah.
also wanted to say real quick that I think Imperialist 2, in Parade 1 is also the second best line, especially if you're doing Transcendent nonsense, because then the cost reduction basically just re buffs Transcendent back to what it used to be, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, and every new Queen Zimpling you make is actually just making Transcendent stronger.
Yeah.
One other thing I'll say, though, is that I think Pyre Chomper is kind of a sleeper imp for a lot of people.
Oh,
I
he's
don't think he gets
nuts.
drafted enough. I've done things where I missed Welder Helper, but I took a Pyre Chomper, gave it large stone, and just shoved that thing in front of the queen, and it would take whole rounds and then get launched, and it's good.
And yeah, and you get a bunch of energy too. I mean, yeah, I think
Right, yeah.
Impish Scholar too, right? And not underrated because everyone loves Impish Scholar. He breaks the game a lot, but like the fact that there are uncommon imps helps for a little bit, but their effects aren't quite as good as like 20 armor, I don't feel like.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to be like your offensive or scaling lines.
Mm.
Exactly.
All right. Final queen thoughts. I think B tier for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Wyldenten. I don't know, man. He's fine. Like I don't really want to put him B tier, but I think he might just be B tier.
I've
I'm
dropped him. I actually think he's C tier. I had him at B tier before. I really don't like Wyldenten. And the only thing is that like if you are playing and ranking him in context, root
Yeah,
seeds are nuts.
yeah.
Like, okay, so yeah, I love having root seeds, but I hate Wyldenten. He just doesn't play nice with half the clan. And you get Predator, and it's like, okay, you're shown Shattered Shell, and it's like, all right, well, great, my floor has 30 HP. How am I not going to die? But that's 5 space. You'd think your big beefy man would have some HP, but no, and it's tough. I do not like playing with him.
um maybe I'm alone here, but and maybe I'm just like I'm the high variance here, but I've actually had a lot of luck with Wyldenten over the last couple months. I feel like, um, also I feel like I just get Predator every time, and I think that's like pretty easily the best line. So I think I'm gonna try to put my own like luck aside and put him at B tier, but like if it was just based on my own personal experience and how lucky I've been with him, I would put him at A tier. But I think I got the I can look at it analytically and see like, well, the other two lines kind of stinky. So
I
Weird.
let's be fair with it.
I want to go to bat for Thornlord. I've been
yeah.
taking Thornlord all the time, and I really like it because it plays nicer with the rest of the clan. You can stick like an Animus behind it and give it some kind of scaling infusion, and eventually its attack gets high enough that yeah, you can win with it. You get 4 hits that do a lot of damage. That's enough. So yeah, I think Thornlord's kind of what I normally take her these days because Predator is so risky if you don't find a good survivability line.
I've had pretty good work, or I've had like a pretty good time with Wyldenten as well. The problem with the champion is that, like you said, he doesn't play well. Root Seeds is a good card, but you've cut off a lot of the clan with that card.
Yes. Yeah,
My
root seeds fucks up the hollows. It fucks up Steel Singer. Uh, uh, who else? The little gnome that heals you. What's his name?
You called it a gnome.
Edge
What's that little gnome that
Prior?
heals you? What's his? Yeah, that
It's
one.
Edge
Yeah.
Prior.
He doesn't.
Yeah, that
Oh
guy.
yeah, yeah. I really hate Wyldenten because I can't play Edge Prior with him. That's
Yeah.
me. Hey, nah. I think that so the problem he has three main issues I think, which are a Strangler is a dead path in the DLC. I think that if you pick that, you're killing yourself 100 times out of 100.
You need an insane offensive scaling plan to clean up waves before you get overstacked and run over.
There's
Like-
one other thing though. I've had this like mad genius idea that kills you in the divinity, but it could get you there, where you take intrinsic holdover stealth and you stealth Strangler and just lock 7 enemies to the floor, and that will kill most of the things, and the boss spawns and just moves past them and insta kills
But-
them all.
But Voyix, there's more than yeah, like there's more than 7 enemies in the game though.
Yeah, but like that cuts like 7 heavies off. The backline will die from the sweep, and then on the top floor you have some sort of planned scaling that catches any stragglers, right? That's the idea. But it doesn't work because on the divinity there's way more frontliners than he can handle, right?
Mhm.
So like, but I want to try it out at least once. I think that generally though Strangler is just dead.
That does sound mad genius. I'm thinking like, how do you make that work? Because that might get there. I don't
So,
know.
One of
I
the
think
other
you just play Steel Singer top floor
I-
separately or something like that.
okay, we can go down this path. I think that you play Strangler 1, Predator 2. You have to have Melting, and if you don't have Stealth, you bring in a Reform strategy so that you reform him. He puts 2 root on the entire floor, dies, and you just keep doing that over and over again to lock them down. Because if you have enough multi-strike, aka 2, you'll put more root than the enemies will lose per turn, and then when the boss spawns, he'll leave them all behind.
This
But you-
does
oh, wait.
absolutely lose the divinity though.
No. You use hallowed halls to bring them onto different floors. So you have 7
Oh.
units on mid and bottom, and it works.
There you go. And then on the
This
top
is
floor, you just
unbelievable.
I had this idea once and it did not pan out for me because I had to do it with a tomb that I just didn't draw in time and I got killed on 4-5. But the idea is there. But I think that outside of like crazy big scaling, like super strong rage scaling or something like that, the path is just worthless and you can't play it. You're
Yeah.
just you're gonna triple stack heavies and kill yourself real quick. I think that Thornlord is good, and I think that the best path for him is Predator 1, Thornlord 2. You use the Thornlord as a bit of like a tank that gives you some extra draw. You have some sort of built-in healing from the clan, and then you have a scaler behind him that just scales up and kills everything.
It's interesting because I actually think the best line for Strangler is with Thornlord 2 with like a top floor setup.
Yeah, I
So
can
you've
see
got
it.
like something really strong in the back that you're scaling, and then Thornlord, you incanted a bunch. It does like 100 sweep damage, and it can actually kind of like clean up things and lock down anything you miss, and it's usually pretty manageable.
Yeah.
Here's my dream Strangler run. A tank, so maybe a hollow, but as we said before, hollows don't work well with him. But you go Strangler 1, Predator 2. He kills you, and you put all scaling, all root seeds, rage, whatever you have, put all scaling on Wyldenten. He hopefully double sweeps, and then it shouldn't honestly take too long for him to start killing heavies in one turn. And once you get there, you're just smooth sailing all the way to the end, and nothing bad ever happens. The end.
He has like 30 health, and you can't
Shut
increase it.
up. No. Don't worry about that part. Regen. I don't know. Glimmer. There's answers.
Yeah. I think regen got a lot worse in the DLC
Oh
also.
yeah. You that is true.
Yeah, it's hard to make it work. You need a
Yeah.
lot of it.
Or you need a lot of like upfront damage with quick to stop the backlines from killing your units.
Yeah, I think the only way you can really do it is with like, like spell chain -2 spreading spores, or you got to really use the new temple upgrades to make spreading spores nuts. And I think you can get there, but
You can always get a double stack cost reduced wildwood sap and then see the ×5 at the first cavern. Always an
that's
option.
fair. That's
Yeah,
true.
true.
50 regen is a good number.
Until Seraph the Patient fucking one shots you still.
Mm-hmm.
Sad.
All right. Final Wyldenten, I think it was BBC, right?
Yeah.
Remember you said B, right?
I did say B.
Yeah, okay.
Although my heart says A, but my brain says B, so I'll put it.
Okay. I'm gonna now for Solgard. I'm going to now move Tethys out of the B tier because I cannot in good faith put Solgard lower than Tethys.
Thank
And
fucking
I think
God.
that Solgard is C tier now.
Uh,
Wow.
I
Okay.
don't like him.
I have trouble with Solgard too, honestly. God, not to be too rude, I think Tethys is the actual worst champion from pre to post DLC. I think Solgard is the second worst champion from pre to post DLC.
Yeah.
They both got hit hard by the, or maybe Penumbra is actually the worst.
And
I don't know.
Penumbra is just, who's that? He's in the dirt.
They
Man,
both had some trouble.
it's tough. I still think pretty strongly of Solgard, but I have dropped him down. I had him at A tier before, but I have him at B now.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. It's tough because I still think if you have the lineup that makes Cold Channel good, it's insanely good.
Yeah, that's fair.
And if you have, and Titan Channel is never bad. I can always activate him in any combat I have him. And that Titan Channel has great stats. And then the only one that I really don't love is Dire Channel because it's just kind of like, I would rather have Nameless Siren, I guess, but yeah. I don't know. I really think I don't have anything particularly insightful to add other than I feel pretty consistent with him. It's nice because you still get Stygian and all the
Yeah.
benefits of being in Stygian, but you have a champion that can actually contribute to your end game, which I really like.
Yeah,
No, go on, Cranberry.
I again, early game, Titan Channel and Cold Channel both work pretty well. Cold Channel takes a freaking hard nosedive. I don't know when, maybe Ring 7, but there's a certain point where the floors do more damage than he has health, and unless you're like, I don't know, if you have a really good defensive plan to stop that, then that's cool, but if you don't, he just fucking dies, eats shit and dies, and it's not cool. But Titan Channel never has that issue, I feel like. Titan Channel gets it done.
I think you can't take Cold Channel unless you know you're going to have a line that makes it survivable. Like
Yeah.
you need armor, you need healing, or you need like echo infusion start or something
Okay.
like that in order to really pull it off.
So let me ask you this then, Dusk. You are playing Exile Stygian and Primary Melting. You have the options
Oh
between
no.
Dire Channel and Cold Channel Solgard. What do you do?
You take Dire Channel. It's just a siren at that point.
Yeah, it's a real bad siren
No,
though.
you take
I
Cold
mean,
Channel and you play Reform.
No, you do not.
oof, I would do that if Shard carried over, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I would take Dire Channel there. I think that's still a winning line. I mean, it's a stronger scaling siren. The only downside is you can't give it multi-strike, which is a pretty big downside. Fine,
Mhm.
and maybe it takes a backseat to some other plan later on. But one other thing I've done before is you have like your siren scaling up top, and you have like a hot shark down below. You can stick Dire Channel behind your shark, and it'll just shoot some stuff, and
You have
it's
to play
fine.
spell. You have to play spells down there though. The siren up top needs the spells.
Yeah, but I mean, you might still play spells down there anyway, right? I mean,
Oh, that's an anti-magic field, my dude.
oof, all right.
Spells don't
So
go there.
I think the reason that I'm putting Solgard in C tier is because I think that he really only has one consistent path, which is Titan Channel. Titan Channel is good. The problem is, so I would very easily put Solgard in probably A tier if the divinity didn't say purify or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah,
Because
that's very true.
the problem, the way that Cold Channel used to play is he was pretty consistent because by the time you got to floor 7 or 8, he would die pre-relentless because the waves would overwhelm him. But in his death, he would put so much frostbite on Seraph that Seraph would just die over the course of the rest of the combat, and they took that away from us because I understand why, but it's also a little disappointing. And I think that because of that, Solgard really only has Titan Channel left, and Cold Channel is, like you said, it can work. It's kind of the same as Rally Queen, right? Where you sometimes, if you hit, it's going to go crazy, but when you miss, it feels pretty bad. And like you said with Dire, I just don't like Dire Channel. I don't think it's fun.
Yeah.
Here's my defense of Cold Channel though. Even when you have a not good setup for it, it's still pretty close to auto wins Daedalus for you. Unless something goes really wrong, like you have no damaging spells and you can't stop backline from hitting him. Daedalus comes, smacks him 3 times. Oh shit, Daedalus has 40 frostbite. What the hell? He dies. Like it's still not that hard to do that, even when you don't have an optimal setup for him.
Yeah.
One thing I'll also say though is that Cold Channel, the rule of it is if you can get it to Relentless on Divinity, it wins. Period. End of story. And I've done some interesting runs in the past where I've sandwiched Cold Channel between a tank and a backline, and so Cold Channel never gets hit until Relentless. And I'm just scaling its shard up, and the rest of everything is handled by like spells or like my sirens or whatever. And then once Relentless happens and my front siren finally dies, then Cold Channel just blitzes the hell out of the Divinity and just wins.
Yeah. If you could also play him like as a top 4 thing, and then he's just like time releasing Frostbite, I guess he would probably die from that though. I don't know. Final Solgard thoughts, anyone?
I put him B tier if I didn't say it before.
Yeah.
I
See,
I
yeah.
think I think God, I miss pre-DLC Solgard. I miss him so much.
bring back the one that had action Frostbite application.
Oh God.
That was broken.
Yeah.
That might be the most disgusting champion path I've seen.
You know what's actually funny though? I don't think it would even be that good right now still because of the purify effect.
I think it would be pretty good still.
It would be pretty good still, but it would not be as good
I mean, yeah,
as the
sure.
purify. It would struggle quite a bit more in relentless because that used to like cold channels. Solgard used to just be like, hey, what if I killed everything? Wouldn't that be neat?
What if
What if everything died? Now he just like the best Solgard runs or the best cold channel Solgard runs now say, what if everything except for Divinity died? Until the Relentless, then he dies as well.
Mhm.
But you know, you have to make it there.
Yeah, I still think he's my favorite champion to play. I always enjoy a good Solgard run, even
Yeah.
if it's a low roll. But yeah, I think B tier.
Okay. I honestly feel like we could probably talk about the next 2 champions at the same time, but we'll go in order. Primordium, you already know where
Nothing
he's
has,
going.
yeah, nothing has changed. You
Champion's
show me
bonkers.
Primordium, I can find a line that wins and cruises. The only thing that I have to watch out for is getting way too overconfident with Primordium and just sending myself by not answering an important question.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how does the sweeper in front of Primordium not die to the Divinity?
Yeah.
Okay, fair question. I have almost lost to that before, so.
That's why you dip into superfood.
So
I
I
mean,
think
yeah.
I think the biggest Primordium question, like the biggest thing that I have to stop myself from doing, is I have to stop myself from picking superfood into Sap Seraph nowadays. Because that
That's
like
a fun one.
I think that's a pretty fast L.
Yeah, that's a whoops.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I don't know,
next
you
one.
could if you're an actual committed superfood run, you can like oh, I got 30 rage on turn 1. I don't care about the sap anymore.
Sure, you need the rage to offset the sap. Absolutely.
And really, maybe it would be good if there was a card that applied multi-strike and like 3 rage, but since that doesn't exist, maybe I'm gonna have to knock him down a tier.
It's fair.
Oh, no.
It's fair. It's just Furnace Tap's not what it used to be.
Yeah. I really don't have much more to say about Primordium. We covered him pretty well in the last video. The champion is nuts. Any path wins pretty easily. You can buff Stalwart Snack, you can play buffs onto Superfood, or you can just play aggressive edible.
Yeah, and seriously, nothing takes Endless better than Primordium.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a Wretch, which is just a rare unit card that explicitly exists to make Primordium even more broken.
Mm-hmm.
And you have Intrinsic in the DLC, so you can do whatever you want to Primordium on turn 1. It's out of control.
Yeah. Closing thoughts? He's triple S, right?
He's way up there. If there's a higher tier than S, he's got to be in it.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just say better or worse than Little Fade. Let's just say it right now.
I think he's worse than Little Fade.
I would agree. I think Fade is better.
I mean, like,
Speaking of Little Fade,
like, well, I don't know, because like just a plus 120 is so strong.
Little Fade is
true.
out of this world, though.
Yeah.
Little Fade is just, you need to train yourself to know how to play her, and then once you get that, she's so much more consistent than Primordium will be. You just kind of accept like 39 damage in the early game, you squeak by Daedalus, and then you cruise control the whole rest of the run. And because you refine your deck, you have some like reform on holdover, whatever you have to do in that run, and it's just easy sailing. With Primordium, you have to think about things like, okay, I'm aggressive edible 3, but I need to play top floor divinity. How am I solving that so he doesn't die? You know, chain of gems, something. You've got to at least think about it. With Fade, I just build the deck and it's like, all right, well, I put units on a floor. I put Fade back whenever she dies. Oh, look, divinity died in 3 turns.
Mm-hmm. So in the run that went up today, 2 days ago from when this video went up, I picked Weathered Coldstones, the one that adds the 3 Blights to your deck, because I was thinking about it and I went, okay, well, the only card that I play is Little Fade. And then I played, because I was playing, I had a crazy high roll on spikes. I got a Little Fade and I started with Welder Helper. And
Okay.
my first combat was Clergy. So my Fade left the first combat at
Oh,
like 37 spikes or something like that. I ended the
Liddy
run at
icky.
500 spikes. It was gross. And so
Mhm.
I was like, I actually, I ended up taking sketches because I had endless burnout 1 welder helpers, and that was pulling my welder helpers out of the deck for me.
That's so
That is
mean.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
And so I was like, well, I don't need to draw anything. I just play Little Fade and then she doesn't die. So I took cards that were completely dead just to heal like 15 health because the champion is so ridiculous. The reason that she's so strong is because you don't need resources for her, right? It doesn't matter. Usually a run is like a balance of space or draw or energy. But Little Fade is free and 1 space and you draw her turn 1 and she wins you the whole game.
Yeah, she's out of control. And even if you feel like you have some kind of a low roll, you can always dip into Eternal Flame,
Mhm.
which since they buffed it, I can't believe they did that. It made it even stronger, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Eh,
it's
like
absurd.
you have like a bad line, you're like, "Oh no, I've made mistakes or I just don't didn't find anything I wanted." It's fine. Just give her endless path and you now have her every turn and you can just make yourself way more consistent because you've low rolled or whatever. And your quote unquote low roll is still just an absolute destruction of the divinity.
Yeah. Like
I I
the go on.
I figured it out.
Hmm.
Uh, Primordium is like trying to play checkers against a 5-year-old. Little Fate is like trying to play chess against a 5-year-old. You're gonna win either way, but one's a lot simpler.
Hmm.
But once
Fair.
you figure out the rules to chess, it's still pretty easy to beat a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
I'll give you that one. Yeah.
I like final thoughts about Little Fade. Something that I realized as well recently is that the really fun thing about Little Fade to me is that all 3 of her paths are very distinct and all are very strong, right? If you want to play a run that's like, hey, I want to play around with some fun melting units, you just pick quick endless fade and then she kills a heavy for you every turn and that's it. And she's great. You want to play like, hey, I want to play melting units that get really big numbers, you play Firelight. Hey, I want to play nothing, you just play spikes.
Yeah.
I feel like the play pattern of spikes ends up being similar to the endless path, where it's like, oh, I play spikes, she dies, I reform her, I play her again.
Yeah.
It feels kind of the same, but I know it plays differently because it's like one of them you're letting her get a hit, and one of them she's pulling out the AK and doing a
Yeah.
quick murder.
What I think that Spike's Fade is the most variant because if you roll that combat that has like 1/5/1 on it total, like attacking, you're gonna leave the first combat pretty low on Fade. And if you low roll enough, she might just not get enough spikes and you'll have to play
Oh,
other melting units. But those are still strong with Primitive Mold. That's the other thing.
mm.
Contextually, Primitive Mold is a really strong card in melting.
Yep. Absolutely. It's one of my favorite things about Fade in general is that she just plays so differently from the other champions
Hmm.
in the game. Like whatever, I'm like, oh, it's Fade. All right, well, I do things very differently. I just have a different method. Whereas I feel like, if I'm thinking about like Rector or Echo Right or, Sentient or whatever, it's pretty consistent. I'm looking for like a unit. I'm gonna
Hmm.
buff the unit and whatever. Whereas Fade is just like, all right, to hell with everything you've learned. We're taking this shit off the rails
Yeah, time to
and
stab.
I really like it.
Yeah. Final thoughts?
She nuts.
Yeah.
You got any of them shinies?
Uh, Final champion, Echo Right. Last time I threw Echo Right in the S tier. I think that Echo Right's A tier. I
Yeah,
don't think
that's
he's
where I've
S
got
tier.
him too.
I'm
I
pretty
think,
sure I put him in A tier, and I'm pretty sure I'm keeping him in A tier. Like,
Yeah.
what's really funny is I'm pretty sure I stuck up for Marsh Lord more than anyone else,
Mm-hmm.
and I not because I didn't want to, but I think I maybe have played Marsh Lord once since we did the tier list.
Oh yeah.
I just don't see him very often. I just I get unlucky. I don't see him very often.
Mm-hmm.
But he's good.
I think that Echo Wright is a very strong champion, but I don't think he's of the same caliber as Fate and Primordium.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I feel very confident with Echo, right? You've got Repeater that's really good, Shellsmith's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I basically can't lose the early game with Marsh Lord if I feel like I have to take it. And it's consistent, it's strong, it's really good. It plays with the other side of Wormkin really well, the consume side.
Yeah.
It's basically like the main enabler for Etch, honestly.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's
Mhm.
great.
You can play any Etch, like play First of Kin with this unit, and it's just he's very strong. Echo Wright
Yeah.
himself, I think that one thing that's important to note, you want to put the champion side by side with a unit that fills a similar role. Tethys puts a similar position of just kind of like buffing up and making spells in the clan better, but Echo Wright comes with an actual stat line that impacts things on all of the paths, and Tethys is a little baby.
Yeah,
Doesn't
Echo
die to
Wright is
like one sweep.
Yeah.
Echo Wright is a 125 unit,
Yeah.
whereas Tethys in Conduit is a 49. Like what? The difference
Yeah.
is night and day.
Mm-hmm.
And then Shellsmith generates what 14 armor per etch.
Yeah.
If you
it's
go all
nuts.
in, yeah.
AOE, like it's crazy. Like
Mhm.
Tethys, what are you doing, man?
Yeah. I think
It's just. I mean, he is 2 space. Let's keep like we're
Mhm.
comparing him to Tethys, but Tethys is only 1 space.
Just make
Uh,
Tethys bigger.
Very
that's the
Seriously.
issue.
But before the next DLC, someone just sneak into Tethys's room and fill her up with steroids. Make her stronger.
I wish there were a way to see Tethys being like with a major refraction in the game. That would just be amazing.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I don't have a lot to say about Echo, right? He's great. You play Dusk covered it. I don't have anything to add. I think that he is as strong as I thought he was before. Probably no, I think he's as strong as I thought he was before, but he's a little weaker than Fate and Primordium are.
Yeah, they're just in their own tier. It's
Mhm.
hard to compare anything to them
It is
because they're
night and
just
day.
so good.
It is hard to believe that Little Fade and Penumbra exist in the same game.
Oh yeah, and it's even funnier. Like they rebalanced Little Fade a little bit ago. They like nerfed Firelight a little bit. I have not even noticed. The
Yeah.
only way I noticed is that plus 12 is a really freaking annoying number
Yeah.
to boost a unit by.
Weird.
It's like the math here. It's the numbers are awful. Don't do this to me, Shiny Shoe.
Why Mega Crit?
We decided to nerf Echo Transfer down to 14 and Echo Infusion down to 9. Good luck, idiots.
Oh,
And
I'm out.
also, on one of the cards we misspelled Echo, but we're not going to tell you which one. We'll just
Oh
start
God.
making changes to make people annoyed to play the cards. Well, that's about it, I think.
Rock on. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess in summary, I think for me, I've lowered a lot of champions
Mm-hmm.
and nothing really went up for me, I don't
No,
think.
yeah, I agree. Oh, Tethys went up for me.
Yeah, fair.
I think I've had maybe a little. I mean, Shard Tail for me went up, so there's that.
Yeah,
But
I
other
mean, you
than
put
that,
Cartel in like the Z tier.
I put it in the Tethys tier.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think that generally one of the problems that I feel like plagues this game is that your champions are not as impactful as I would like them to feel.
That's definitely a change that came about in the DLC.
Yeah,
I feel like back in the day before the DLC, I was like champion felt like it did something all the time, no
yeah.
matter what.
Back
Oh,
in
you know
like
what would be cool? I had an idea. Take the marks out of the game. Take mark of a champion and mark of an exile or whatever out of the game. And then right before the divinity fight, they give you the marks because it's like a whole thing where it's like, okay, here's the last fight. Take this. You need this for the fight.
do
There
they
you go,
change?
bud.
Do you also change the relic to make it useful, or
Yeah, maybe make it unique for each champion so that way it's like,
that'd be cool?
for this
That would be
champion it
dope,
does
yeah.
this, right? It actually like because like that's like the whole thing is they don't want to I imagine they don't want to scale them up more because then if you're not fighting the divinity or if you're not doing any shard pack stuff like they become if they made them better, they would be busted, right?
Yeah,
For
it's
like
actually
normal
another
play.
suggestion I've seen some people talk about on the main Monster Train Discord a little bit is having a 4th Dark Forge for a 4th tier upgrade for all champions after Seraph.
That'd be
So you would
cool.
only get that if you were going to the Divinity. It's a very
Mm.
similar idea to what you're talking about, Cranberry.
Yeah, that makes more sense because like I mean the thing I was saying like oh, you know what would be cool if you had uh like like 9 different possibilities for what you could get for the upgrade based on the line you took. So if you went like Cold Channel 3, you would get the Cold Channel 3 upgrade. If you went Cold Channel 2, Titan Channel 1, you would get the Cold Channel 2, Titan Channel 1 upgrade. Like stuff like that. Like a unique upgrade depending on the path you took right before you get to the divinity.
That'd be a cool way of doing it, yeah. I mean, I think that I don't know if this will ever happen because this probably sounds like a lot of work for the devs and some
Yeah.
other things, but I certainly think that would be a really cool solution. Because you're right. I mean, I feel like in most cases my champion can do something throughout the run. Like even, Trample Penumbra can be productive in the like Seraph's combat or something.
Mhm.
But when you're thinking about solving the divinity, you're just like, oh God, Trample Penumbra. Like,
Yeah.
geez.
The
I
big
mean, I think I said it probably last time we did this too, but the two big changes are pack shards, which makes the enemies stronger,
Mhm.
and the infusions, which make your units, not your champions, but they make your units stronger, right? So
Yeah.
champions stayed the same. So of course they feel like they're lacking, right? They didn't get
Yep.
changed. I mean,
Yeah.
the only big change was the marks, the mark of a champion, a mark of an exile, and those aren't even universally good. Tethys, like, what is Tethys gonna do with this shit, right? Like, there's a reason why she's the worst.
Give Tethys Mark of an Exile so that she can have 4 more HP.
Yeah, it's just kind of. I think maybe the next DLC they can do that. That'd be cool.
Maybe. I don't know.
Something to increase the power level of the would be nice.
I don't know how or when this happened, but somewhere along the line in the recording, I'm just going to mention this for the people watching. Please point out when this happens in the recording. Somewhere along the line, my screen crop changed very slightly, and it changed when we put the last champion up. Never mind, I got it.
Ah, okay.
The stuff that was hidden off the bottom of the screen moved up. I understand now. Never mind. I now know. I am a
He's
knower.
cracked the case.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that'll wrap it up. Any closing thoughts?
It has always been a pleasure. I think
Yeah.
this is good times. I
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of things that could be said about a lot of different elements of the game, but I think the
Yeah.
champions are the thing people see the most, and
I
this is probably gonna be really useful.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe next week if you guys would like to, we could do another one of these, but for the starting cards. I think that could be fun.
Yo, yeah.
I would like to do that. Although, Cat, I have one condition.
Mm-hmm.
We also next week have to do a quick tier list of their drip. I think that's very
Okay.
important.
Yeah, sure. We could do a quick drip tier list. Like,
Sounds good.
I feel like the Wormkin boys are a little bit cheating since,
Well, there's a naked tier: Tethys, Spine Chief. I think the bike might count as clothes, so we'll see.
We can argue about that next week. That'll be a
Exactly.
2-hour video. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you guys all for watching. Longer, about as long as a co-op episode, actually. Again, in the description, you can go check out Dusk and Cranberry. They make content as well. You'll have links to all of that. You can go say hey. And yeah, I'll do it. See you guys next time. Have a good one.
Later.
Bye.